Make sure you're transferring your scores on the back. Once you've transferred them, add them up. Once you add them up, you can just put that number at the bottom. So like at the bottom of number 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Once you've added up the columns, for those of you that have your binders, you flip to the benchmark section. Should be the pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Transfer the relevant columns from the back of your inventory to the spaces in the pages. So it'll be actually pages 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll see in the top right corner it says total from column X. You'll put that total in there. If you don't have your binders, you need to look on with someone close to you that has one. That way you'll at least be able to track where we're going with this. Where you going there? total the columns, and then I want you to transfer your totals from your columns into your binder.
Then stop there.
And then stop there. Yes. Who still needs more time? All right, couple hands, all right. Yeah, pull out your cell phones as you're putting them on silent and total up your columns. The bond trader in the back is having a heart attack that we can't do simple arithmetic, so. Show of hands, where are all my folks who had their highest total in column 1? Highest total in column 1, raise them high, raise them high. Okay. Highest total in column 2. All right. Highest total in column 3. Highest total in column 4. All right. And then highest total in column 5. So columns 4 and 5, I'll tell you which ones they are. And you've already transferred them. You should know where you fit into that. So where are all my modeling the way people? That'd be column 1. Your highest totals in column 1. Okay. Where are all my inspired shared vision folks? Column 2. Challenging the process. That's column 3. Challengers, all right. Let's go with our enabling others to act, column 4. And then encouraging the heart. Our folks who also, in some other assessments, we call the woo folks. All right. So, give you a little background on this. Many of you may have seen this assessment or inventory, but this was created by two gentlemen by the name of James Cousys and Barry Posner, and what they wanted to do was study the most successful leaders in organizations. And over 25 years ago, they started out on that path and track and seeking what these people look for in individuals, what type of influences and what practices these highly effective leaders relied on day in and day out. And what they ended up realizing was that it was 5 practices, these 5 practices that we're going to talk about first part of our program this afternoon. And that is looking at it in terms of modeling the way, inspiring a shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others to act, and encouraging the heart. So what I want to do is, go into that a little bit further. Think about it in terms of how these successful leaders or effective leaders realize how to overcome leadership barriers. Because as leaders, all of us, including your chapter situations, you have barriers to being successful. And that may be oftentimes missing the gap in communicating from one individual to another, understanding what pushes them and what inspires them, as well as how you can effectively communicate in that process. So this is just one tool, several out there, in understanding yourself so that you can then realize how you can be most effective. So here they are again. Challenging the process, inspiring a shared vision, enabling others to act, modeling the way, and encouraging the heart. Some things we want to talk about here. Challenging the process. These are the people that search for opportunities, like to experiment. take those risks, but mitigate those risks by focusing on incremental change and small wins. Think about that. Our challengers in here, you guys take a little bit more risk sometimes. Now keep in mind, these practices aren't traits. What do I mean by that? I mean that this is not something that you are automatically born with. These are things that can be learned, can be taught, can be refined over time. And sometimes you may jump from one column to another depending on what stage in life you're in. And so understanding how to pull and push on those things will help you in that process of being successful. So this is looking at our challengers. Inspiring a shared vision. These are the futuristic gentlemen, people in society, leaders. You can see it over the horizon, understanding that, you know what, I'm going to motivate you and rally you on board by inspiring that shared vision. You know, as our chapter presidents in here, these are the guys you can, you know, as politicians put it in today's speak, you can see over the horizon, those leaders that are transformational, realizing that you use a little bit of all of them from time to time. There's some additional descriptions that I have in your binders as well. Looking at it now in terms of enabling others to act, fostering a collaboration, strengthening others, realizing that from this process, you are inspiring those followers after you've, as JJ started yesterday and talking about gaining that authority, looking at the servant leadership model and realizing before you're calling yourself a leader, you're earning that authority, that ability to be able to get others to do your will and understand how you are influencing them in that process. Here's a piece to look at that and how it would continue on and carry on by enabling others to act. You having the will to act. Understanding that it's not all fluff and talk, it's actually then putting the boots on the ground and going out there and doing it. Putting your elbows in and actually doing some work, getting dirty. How does that relate in chapter situations? Think about it in terms of inspiring, you know, your risk advisor or your risk chairman, or understanding that as that position you hold, you have a responsibility to enable others so that when they see something going wrong, they then will step up and address it. They have the will to act. You're enabling them to think about that process. So that's the chapter situation and scenario. We'll discuss a little bit more of it as well. Next up, modeling the way. It's fairly simple. Set an example. You know, this is the most transferable one when I think about what we do for new members. What we as initiated brothers, and there may be some in here who are not initiated yet, but what you do to inspire and show those new members. Think about Kim's conversation yesterday in risk and reframing the conversation. How is it that you are leading others and showing them? The modeling the way comes right in on that. Don't forget to focus on those small wins. Think about it in terms of you want to make a huge impact and change a chapter program or change the culture in the chapter. You can't just think about it in the process of we're now going to be here, but how are you going to celebrate those small wins along the way to continually model that way, show others in that process, how you dress, how you speak. Think about the conversation and the message that was just shared in our last honoree, our Distinguished Achievement honoree, about that first impression, modeling the way, that it's going to go a long way in the process of who you may run into and what type of impact you may make on that individual somewhere down the road. Also, you think about modeling the way, and I'll tell you, this is probably my number one. I know this is my number one high on this list when I take this inventory. Somewhere in the high 20s, because that is a piece of setting the example. You know, I want others to see what example we're setting and hopefully empower you to come on board, be a cheerleader and do the same thing. Find your place in this process. Encouraging the heart. Now, I know we're men, and oftentimes when we make presentations like this is the sector where folks say, well, that's the touchy-feely. You know what I'm saying. You know, I don't want to talk about my feelings. I don't want to go there. I got some smiles over here. You know exactly where I'm going with that. But don't be fooled. This is a very important practice in this process as well, because this is where the authenticity comes out. And realizing what you are going to do and how you're going to impact someone authentically is so very important. So very important in that process of discovering who you are. Again, showing people who you are through your values, through what your ethics are, as well as understanding that you don't want to cross between those pieces and how you act when you are engaging in conversation, when you are engaging in showing others the way, as well as think about it in your chapter situation. We have chapter officers in here. Going in and meeting with your Greek advisor, but then turning around and sharing a different message with your local chapter volunteers. Don't have a cross between that. You should be that same authentic individual in each of those two scenarios. It's much easier to then understand what your role is going to be. The encouraging the heart, folk, celebrating team accomplishments. Think about it in terms of what you may be doing with intramurals, athletics, how that success continues to breed more success. When you have those team wins, bringing people on board, rallying the troops, important to keep in mind. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Too far. Hold on. So before I introduce that, a couple additional things I want to share with you about this. I've already said they're learned behaviors, can be easily improved as well as enhanced over time. We all have our preferred practice. We did a little show of hands. I should have split up everybody and moved you around in terms of where the different groups are so you can collaborate. But one of the things I want you to keep in mind as we do some examples of what these practices are, think about it and try and identify which practice in these next video clips, which practice, and write it down near the end of your book there. We got some reflection questions we're going to do too, but you have some white space in your binder or your notes. I'm going to show you a couple video clips and try and identify which clip correlates with a particular practice, okay? So let's find our volume, and we're going to do this. We're going to make this up, make this work.
Every time you do, you leave one of
Everybody got yours? Down? Everybody made it? Maybe some gray in there where they both could fit in, more than one, but pick the one you think we'll discuss in a minute. Here's another one.
Anybody know what this place is? This is Gettysburg. This is where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg. 50,000 men died right here on this field. Fighting the same fight. And we're still fighting amongst ourselves today. This green field right here, painted red, bubbling with blood, young boys, smoke, hot lead going right through their body. Listen to their souls, man. Killed my brother with malice in my heart. Hatred destroyed my family. You listen. Take a lesson from the dead. If we don't come together right now in this hollow ground, we too will be destroyed. Just like that. I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other. And maybe, never play this game like that.
Oh, got it? We're going to talk about him in just a minute as well. Make down which one it is. Here's another one.
That's me. And that's three people. And I'm going to help you. But it has to be something really big. Something they can't do by themselves. So I have to do it for them. And they do it for the other people. That's 9. And I do 3 more.
That's 27, so I'm not really good at math, but it gets big really fast, you know? Articulation, please. Yes.
I think it's a good idea.
Sean.
Stupid.
Adam.
It's the honor system. People blow off the honor system. So what? Just because you do.
Well, Trevor, the class seems to think that you've come up with an overly utopian idea. Look that word up.
Like, perfect world?
Got it? I think there's one more.
We're going zone now, so I can play with Roosevelt, but I cannot play with these guys. No, I'll tell you what, I didn't want him on the bench all year so I could watch us go down on Mike. Idiot, he's better. You want him to take your spot? Go give it to him.
All right, so let's chat about them. What do you think about those clips and how they relate to the 5 practices? We'll keep up our same standard that started yesterday with Brother Arnold. You want to speak? Stand up, name and chapter, and then we'll go from there. Who wants to go first? What about the first Remember the Titans clip? One I like to call Captain. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gavin Alisade Omega. I think the first one touches on encouraging the heart, because both of them had kind of really been pushed to limits physically and mentally, and they really wanted results. They kind of push each other's buttons to really hit emotions. I thought that they were leaning towards that to get the result.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Nick Stone, South Chadwick.
Speak up a little bit.
It's basically the thing I saw a lot of encouraging heart in that clip as well. The other thing that it was the quote at the end of the clip was, attitude reflects leadership. And if you're not leading with the right attitude, a positive attitude, looking down the road, the people that you're leading, you cannot expect the same from them.
Fantastic. Go ahead, in the back.
I think it was more of a challenging others to act style of leadership because both of the two leaders saw something the other one wasn't doing right or wasn't doing good all the way, and they both critiqued one another and showed them what they thought they could do to improve the whole team.
Fantastic. Okay. What about the second one? Go ahead, Lee.
Captain Newton, Canada, for University. I would argue the second one is vision, because Denzel Washington was standing up there giving a speech to the boys, essentially telling them to put all else aside and get their shit together, pardon my French, and work as a team to accomplish that goal.
Absolutely. Anyone saw another one in the second clip? What about the third clip? Go ahead, Zachary. Stand up and turn around that way. I can hear you.
Zach Barr from Gavin at University of Iowa. I thought the third one was kind of challenging the process. Pay it forward, I think that's what that movie's called. Because just doing something new, all the kids laughed at him, but it's challenging the process. Like we just all each other.
Perfect. Go ahead, right there. Yes, sir.
My name is Thomas Ray, the Account Chapter of Montana State, and I was going to say enabling others to act with this team. There's always things you cannot do alone, and you can act with the quality of it. So.
Perfect. There and then here. Go back. Speak up a little bit. Certainly. Go ahead.
Ian Tozier from Zeta Omega, University of Louisiana Lafayette. I think number 3 at that role was modeled the way because he's literally drawing up the plans, showing people what they have to do, and basically setting the standards. It's a very simple process, but it's a very, and it's very technical at the same time because it makes a huge, huge difference.
Certainly. And what about our final clip? Go ahead, maybe.
Maybe in New York's one chapter, say enabling others to act. Sometimes the leader just needs to know, just the team as a whole, and see who everyone's strengths is, and it's very admirable to go ahead and step down at times and let someone else take the lead.
Go ahead.
Jeremy Harris, Lambda Zeta. I said it was encouraging the heart. I mean, probably everybody still remember the Titans winning. Petey wasn't that great of a running back, but the guy recognized that he could contribute elsewhere. I mean, he'd admitted himself to the coach that I can't hang with the opponent, but he knew that Petey was, I guess, more athletically gifted than he was. So he was willing to take his own ego, step down, give him a chance to shine. And I thought that was recognizing others' contributions, and it was more like a celebration because he hugged them at the end.
Fantastic.
That he is worth being on the team if others didn't see that.
Perfect. Thank you. The things I want you all to remember and think about in this is that those 4 clips, just examples. Certainly Hollywood helped us be able to explain these concepts a little bit more real, and understanding you run into similar situations and scenarios like that in your chapter situations. And really you're going to run into them in life in general. When you move on, from the everyday college routine to your professional workspace and whatever else you may be doing, important to think about how you rely on certain practices or one practice more than others at times. There's a lot of gray in these 4 clips. I could pull out at least 2 of the practices in just about each of them. So, and I would submit many of you could do the same thing. It's certainly another way for us to illustrate how these things are in action all the time and what's going on there. So wanted you to think about that. A couple questions I have for you. With this idea of leadership, you know, what are some opportunities for success you may have in your chapters, your individual growth pieces, you know, by applying these on a daily basis and getting into a very involuntary state of working with it? Throw out some responses that come to mind. What are some opportunities for success here? Go ahead, Phoebe.
Like I know, I'll just use philanthropy as an example. Sometimes you're complacent. You say, "Oh, we do this every year," but maybe you don't make, enough money as you think you would. So you would challenge the process, be innovative, and some people kind of fight over like, "Oh no, we do this philanthropy every year." But you know what? We should probably think about changing it, or maybe changing whoever we're donating all of our money to kind of spark the fire and change things. Complacency can be kind of bad at times. So definitely, challenging the process.
Perfect. Anyone else? There are a couple questions at the end of that page 4, reflection questions. We'll give you about 2 minutes to jot down some stuff on that, to provide some responses to it. It's going to be right after encouraging the hard items. You have 4 there. Take just a few moments, and then we're going to do a transition to continue our conversation with these pieces. If you don't have a binder and you have something to write with, see if your neighbor will loan you a notes page out of their book. Okay. We're going to try and get some paper as well, because the remaining part of our activity in here is going to require completing the pieces that are in your binder. I can also get everybody an electronic copy of the binder after the academy, so we'll send that out in your email you have on file for the event. Make sure you have that for future use. But I want to make sure everybody can have an opportunity to participate. That's okay. Hold on. It's gone. All right. Who needs something to write on? I'm about to give out sheets. It's a very good problem to have. We have nothing. You at least have something to write with. So as we transition a little bit, kind of put all the pieces together, tie it all up. One of the things I want you to think about, we're going to talk about creating a mission statement, really kind of your blueprint for you making a legacy, you making an impact and leaving a legacy, or at least, setting yourself up in terms of keeping you grounded. In terms of identifying what your values are, your ethics are, what principles you apply each and every day, and then putting that all together into one nice coherent package, something you'll look at and continually reflect on throughout your career. Now, the precursor I always like to leave is that mission statements are things that will change over time. Realizing that you're going to refine it, you're going to spend some time to maybe add some stuff to it or take some things away. I went through this process one of the very first times in my own graduate program, realizing that our challenge was then to sit down and identify what are the things that you value. Do you value money? Do you value time? Do you value family? Do you value other stuff, concepts that fit into that process? And that's one of the things that we're going to spend the remainder of our time today tying all those pieces together and then ending with a nice mission statement for yourself based upon those principles, values, those type of identifiers. So a little bit about mission statements to start. Simple statement provides a reason for being. JJ stated yesterday talking about the core, understanding yourself. Provides clarity and focus, is used when making choices and is clear and concise. No matter what we want out of life, we have some type of mission of what we want to do. We may have either written it down or we fly by the seat of our pants from day to day time periods and how we're going to actually fulfill that mission, recognizing what impact I, as an individual, will make to society. Our hope in this process is to help you quantify this statement, this mission, and then make it more real. Because when you see it, then you can believe it and actually then hold yourself accountable in terms of whether or not you're actually fulfilling the steps of that each and every day. So, starting out right now based on where you are in life, undergraduate students, your mission statement may be very simple in terms of, and I want you to think about it a little bit more than, right now I just want to get through this semester. Think about it in terms of what else you're going to add to it. How is it going to be something to really aspire to each and every day? And how are you going to align the things in your life to match that? So some of the things that we use to help frame this is using our late fraternity brother, Dr. Covey's work. And one of the things he states here about mission statements, where's Micah? Hey, where's he at? Hey, read this for us, Micah. Loudly, please.
If you don't set your goals based upon your mission statement, you may be climbing the ladder of success, only to realize when you get to the top, you're on the wrong hill.
Thank you very much, sir. It's pretty plain and clear. I mean, you don't want to continually identify what your goals are and end up in the wrong place, right? It's sort of a tangible way to look at it. So understanding that if you want to be a medical doctor at some point in time, but you're spending all your time taking, history and liberal arts courses, it's be a little difficult to get there at some point, right? Or at least understanding that you have to put these things in place that are continually get you on the right track to lead down that road. Thinking of a way that Brother Ford referred to in our last banquet, understanding that we're all salesmen in some way, shape, or another. Maybe a good idea to think about how we align our mission statement that's going to help support what we're selling. And whether that is we're selling ourselves, selling what I do in terms of inspiring others and making an impact. Same thing for you, or in terms of what product you may be pushing. So our hope is that we're going to be able to apply that place. Some things to think about when developing a mission statement. What are my talents? What are those things I'm very good at? You know, those talented pieces, realizing that, you know, the talent things are sometimes those inherent pieces. Realizing that some people are just naturally talented musicians. Or, as I've learned now that in business professionals, some people are just scratch golfers. They just get out there and swing a club and it happens. Look at Bubba Watson. Guy, you know, who won the Masters, you know, last year. You know, just picked it up and go. And I mean, he hits it a mile, but just really a scratch golfer. Think about, you know, what your talents are, because it's important to include that in developing your mission statement. What do you have a passion for? Do you have a passion for people? Do you have a passion for processes? Where are my, you know, engineering guys, you know, that love that? You know, what are your passions in that process? How are you going to intertwine that to make it work? Think about what you just, you know, sit around day to day and dream about. Maybe you have an idea to change the world in some way, or creating some new innovation, but that just continually breeds and gives you strength to go day to day. I'll skip a few of these. What are the main areas in which you like to invest your talents? What environments or settings feel most natural? That's a big one. Some people naturally feel great in front of large crowds. You can just do it. Think about the example from yesterday with Joshua Bell. When JJ was explaining, you know, one of his reactions of playing in the subway, that, you know, no one clapped after he, you know, changed from different sets. He'd gotten used to just getting that feeling, you know, so he could be on the huge symphony stage and getting that round of applause after each set, but then he's playing just in a subway stop where, you know, of course, thousands of people have passed him, but when he stops, there's nothing, just dead silence. So those are some things I want you to think about as we go through this process and complete these activities that are going to be coming up. Determining your mission is in terms of developing mental pictures of what we want to create for the future. You all are aspiring at some point to graduate from college, get a job. You know, do something, maybe become an entrepreneur, create your own companies. Think of those mental pictures in the process of how that's going to fit into developing this mission, this knowing yourself and understanding what your strengths and talents are. Because another key to success in this process is understanding what those strengths and talents are. Also understanding what those, people call them weaknesses. They may be listed in this section as I like to call areas you need improvement on. And in terms of how you can manage around those things, certainly realizing that as you continue to grow and get engaged with different people and different groups, you're going to be on teams. You may be the leader of a team. You're doing that now in the chapter situation, whether you have a specific chapter office or not. But how are you going to rely on your strengths and talents, but then get people on your team that can fill that void where you may have a weakness? You may not be the best encouraging the heart person in your chapter or on your team, you know, celebrating those small wins, but to be successful, looking at what Kuzis and Posner have proposed after 25 years of research, you need someone like that on there to continue to rally the troops. Think about it in the process of what you're doing and what you're accomplishing day in and day out. Here's some mission statement examples. And the one in the middle is from a friend of mine who is an educator. So, to communicate to those with unheard voices how education can change lives. His identified principles: compassion, his values, education, his belief, all deserve an education and additional passion, reaching out to the underprivileged. This gentleman went right out of college with his degree and went worked for Teach for America. So many of you probably are familiar with that program, and in turn have continually made it a commitment of his to stay in education. Now, I'll be remiss if I tell you this was, a perfect first run at writing a mission statement. Was not. It has been refined over time and streamlined and really put to a point where it's clear. And you can see that it is clear how he stresses what his goal and role is in this process. The one at the top is from a stay-at-home mom. I believe that's right. In my school and in the community, high school student. And then the one down the bottom is a teacher and a father. So I'm going to show you mine. Mine is one that I've worked on over the past 4 or 5 years, and it gets some revisions from time to time, as well as some refining and trying to make it even more concise. So I revisit it, look at it, think about what I'm doing professionally, and recognize whether or not that's in line with what I want to continue to do as I've identified in my mission statement. So, to be a fervent, passionate, informed messenger sharing the important personal growth benefits gained from membership in fraternal organizations. Now, when I first started out, it was about 2 sentences, and I had a graduate professor that said, listen, I challenge you to get it down to 1 and not a compound, complex sentence. Get it down to 1. And at one point, it had just basic organizations, collegiate organizations in there. Then I got to thinking about it. I work for a men's fraternity. I believe in what we do. I believe in what other fraternal social organizations do, and I trust that we are changing lives. And as a result, this matches well with where I want to be and what I want to continue to do. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I meet people and they go, and this just happened on Wednesday. I went to pick up a cargo van for staff to transport all the items down here, and I get there, and nice little young girl checking me out at the rental car place. And when I say checking me out, she was new on the job, trying to get me checked out. And, where were you a Pike at? I go, well, I am a Pike. She goes, I was an Alpha Phi. And I go, you are an Alpha Phi. I go, you took an oath, an obligation for a lifetime. It's not a 4-year commitment. We have a role to play in this process to make sure that you continue to support those values and those principles you pledged to when you took the oath to join that organization. And you should continue to display that. And we have an important role in this process to make sure we do that. Many of you that have probably seen me speak at a leadership summit heard me give the statistical rundown pieces when we talk about, fraternal organizations. We're huge, fraternities and sororities, we're huge, but at the end of the day, we still only represent about 3% of the population in North America. We have all these prominent members. Heck, we had a few that spoke at lunch today. You're going to hear from another one tonight at dinner. You heard from one on Thursday night. very successful people in their own vocation, whether that is professionally or what they've done in their personal aspirations. But we still have a big road to climb as an organization to continually make sure that we are fulfilling that process to share the positive things that we're doing, that our members are contributing for the whole of the organization. So that's my challenge to all of you. There's my mission statement, sharing it with you. What we're going to do, those of you have your binders, you have about 7 activities in there. Before we start that though, I want to give the opportunity for any questions so far, and then we're going to walk through the activities, and then I'm going to also give our co-facilitator the opportunity to add to this before we move to our activity. So, any questions first? Okay, then JJ will add some additional commentary.
Okay. So everybody stand up.
Gonna move them around.
I want you to reach all the way up. Turn all the way around. Put your hands down. That was so much fun for me to watch you guys do. Anyway, so now what I want you to do is I want you to switch sides of the room. And sit next to someone you do not know. Find a spot.
Maybe you look confused. Like,
Okay. Real quickly, Rick did a great job of framing what you're about to do. So yesterday we discussed the theoretical or strategic piece of being present and having presence. So now we went tactical with you to understand what your core is all about. Because if you don't know yourself, how are you expected to lead and follow with other people? So this is all about you now, and Rick's a great facilitator of going through this process. And what you're about to get is what companies, Fortune 50 companies around the world, they pay tens of thousands of dollars for the survey you just took and what they create with their business leaders. So pay attention, but also be very honest with yourself, because this is all about you now. So, on the count of 3, though, I want you to have some presence. On the count of 3, I want to know whose house this is. So the other people on the other side of the wall hear you. So, 1, 2, 3. Whose house? Whose house? All right, Rick, there you go.
thank you, sir. Great cheerleader, I love it. Again, focusing on our 5 practices. JJ just exemplified one right there. So, looking at it in terms of inspiring a shared vision. So let's begin our process here. We're going to spend the remainder of our time working through our activities. I'm going to watch the clock. We're going to, spend some, and if you don't have your binder, what my recommendation is going to be is to share with your neighbor and I can give you more than one sheet of paper and make sure that you have something to write on. But I want you to go through these activities. Start with activity 1, identifying what you value. And be honest with yourself. I tell you, one of my values is order. Everything has a place, and it should be in that place. Also, fun. I like to have fun. Make sure you transfer those your selections on the lines provided. Who needs more paper? Yeah, you do, I see. This is like a big jigsaw puzzle. We're going to put it all together at the end, so don't flip ahead. If you've already flipped ahead, try to forget what you've seen. It's going to build on itself. Once you have completed activity 1, certainly feel free to go ahead and move along to activity 2. It's more about the ethical norms. You'll see the 10 are already listed. You may have some secondary norms, ethical norms you want to add in there. Feel free to do that. And transfer them as well. The guys that don't have the binder, just make sure you are writing down your responses to each of them. So the values, the ethical norms, make sure you put those down. When you're completed with activity 2, I know some are taking their time. We have plenty of time, but if you want to take a look at activity 3, please feel free. Activity 4 talks about strengths, I believe. Yep, so honest assessment. I believe activity 5 talks about weaknesses. Number 6, you're going to start taking a look at who is significant in your life, so naming some individuals. Maybe it's a family member, fraternity brother, significant other, teacher, boss. And actually put their names in there. Maybe what you see in those individuals. Yes, sir.
See that as a weakness.
What challenges you? Okay. Mhm. Yeah, it doesn't. No, it doesn't have to be. I mean, some people could say being extroverted or just being really confident sometimes. So, yeah, these aren't all inclusive. So that's one thing to think about. And some of your options aren't all inclusive. So some of those things, are there to help at least get you to think about what type of term you'll fill in somewhere. So if you don't necessarily view one piece as being a strength or a weakness or whatever it may fit in, let's get the conversation started. You may need to add a different term that's not even listed in one of the sections. See a number of you working on number 6. So you're going to, we're going to talk about it a little bit after this, but you're going to transfer your items according to the instructions on the last page, which is listed under the mission statement. And transfer those pieces under. Then you're going to be able to make a nice, succinct paragraph. If we were to read it, you'll be able to zip right through it. Once you've transferred everything, just look up this way so I can keep your attention. Look up to the screen. If you're not, if your head's down, that tells me you're still writing. So. So we have about 10 minutes left while you're finishing that up. And here's what I propose we do for the final 10 minutes. And that is, we will see if any folks want to share theirs. Then we will get some thoughts from you and your experience thoughts from you based upon your experience with this activity. I'll provide some wrap-up comments from me, and then I'll invite JJ to share any with you as we send you back off out to your campuses, realizing that you've got to harness all this knowledge that you have gained here over the past 3 days and be able to apply it in a way that's going to make you successful. So making sure that we can provide you with the support you need to be successful. Realizing that we still have a couple other programs the remainder of this afternoon, realizing that the last sessions of the day will certainly help identify what that roadmap can look like and understanding what tangible actions you can take from where you sit or where you may stand, based on how you want to view that, in your own experience, realizing what leadership impact you have. So we'll finish that up, and then we'll get that kicked off here in a couple seconds. So I don't want to give everybody an opportunity if they want to share, they can think about it. Oh, go ahead.
Who wants to share this?
Well, it's probably going to be a little difficult for you to share it, where in terms of you probably going to be able to read it all through there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You should, yeah.
And what I'm saying by sharing is whether or not you want to read your shared personal mission statement that you've identified. You don't have to. No one has to. But just wanted to see if any vulnerability is in the room. If people want to be vulnerable, and put it out there. Kyle? I can't hear you. If you would like to. Okay. Stand up and speak loudly, please, sir. You may want to either turn one side.
To find happiness, fulfillment, and value in living, I will lead a life centered around the principles of honesty, integrity, equality, fairness, and the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit of excellence. Remember, what's important in life is learning, development of talents, happiness, truth, and health. Revere admirable characteristics in others, such as being ambitious, compassionate, enthusiastic, fun, witty, and wise, and attempt to implement similar characteristics in my own life. Recognize my strengths and develop talents as a person who is optimistic, intelligent, skillful, teacher, and imaginative, and humble myself by acknowledging that I can be unmotivated, sarcastic, contentious, and cheap. And vision myself becoming a person. I didn't get to that part. I mean, I got it, but I didn't.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Okay. So, sorry, go ahead. Speak up a little loudly for us, Nick.
Integrity, excellence, fairness, accountability, and honesty. Remember, what's important in life is family, friends, personal growth, productivity, and generosity. Revere animal characteristics in others, such as being ambitious,
caring, enthusiastic, and dependable. Recognize my strength and develop talents as a person who is confident, enthusiastic, open-minded, and skillful. Humble myself by acknowledging that I can be prideful, sarcastic at times. And vision,
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, what are your initial reactions to this activity, this way of looking at building and constructing a mission statement? Thinking about how you're going to build a core. Focus on your core. Go ahead. Turn around this way.
That was good and interesting because when you write a mission statement, it's good to you really got to look inside yourself then and you see what you really want to look forward to. You're not just doing a goal, you're figuring out how you can accomplish your goal. So you can take that time to really look inside yourself. Same thing with your chapters, writing a mission statement for this year or yourself. You really got to look inside your real house and figure out what you're good at and what you're good at. So I think it's a very important thing to do and what everyone should do.
Perfect. Anyone else? I have one more. Go ahead, James.
James Mooney Upslaw. I think it's interesting as fraternity members because we all subscribe to Pike's mission statement. We're all members, we're all brothers, and so we uphold that. But it's interesting, like you said, to look introspectively and figure out the personal mission statement. We all know that we are striving to be true Pikes, but at the same time, we have a personal mission statement that we're all trying to uphold as well. Something that we know that we play to our strengths and develop ourselves along the way as well by addressing those weaknesses. So.
Perfect. Thanks, James. And thank you very much for doing that bridge. You're right. You by joining the fraternity, ideally you should have prescribed to know that there's going to be alignment between the fraternity's values and your values, and you certainly should not be a part of an organization that you do not have that type of an alignment. Think about David Greenberg's conversation on Thursday night when he said that his boss told him that he was not going to be able to stay on the Mercantile Exchange board if he voted against. I forget exactly which one it was now, but when he voted, if he was going to vote against the change in what they were going to do with policy, that's a look at what your values are, and knowing that be a part of an organization at that level, if your values aren't in alignment, then it certainly is best to break that connection and move on to make sure you're not going to put any type of question in terms of what you value and what your principles are. So, realizing that we're coming on the top of the hour here, or half hour, and I want to be respectful knowing that we have one additional general session that's going to talk about leveraging your college experience as you move on into whether it's graduate school or professional school or you're going to go into the workforce. Certainly think that's going to be a great way to start to cap off this program. But what I want to leave you with, and my piece of this, is that I challenge all of you to continually look at what it is you want out of life and make sure that you are living an authentic life, that you are you, and no matter what scenario you find yourself in, and understand that if you don't have that authenticity piece, that core piece that is happy and pleasant for you, then it's tough to understand, it's tough to live and get joy from whatever you may be doing. And that is whether or not you are seeking a particular degree because you need to have that degree to please someone else, or you're going to seek that degree because that's what you have a passion for. And realizing that it may not get you all the treasures in the world. And I say that because personal experience, my undergrad degree's in history, granted I work for men's fraternity, but I believe that my happiness has come much later after that fact, realizing that I can apply my skills and talents in other places and know that that joy continuously grow from connection with people and being able to see when someone is inspired. And as I like to refer to it, they're at home and the light is on, or the light is on while they're at home, you see it click. That's that piece that continuously give me that energy, that drive to inspire and push others. And realizing that somebody did it for me. And so I'm the type where I understand that I have a role in that process to do it for others. So that's my piece that I leave all of you here with. And I don't know if you want to add to that or share.
Sure, real quickly. Gentlemen, what you just did, what's called systems thinking. In any career that you're going to go in, your managers, directors, vice presidents want you to think in a systems approach. A goes to B goes to C. So what you did right today and yesterday was started with your own mental A, and now it's time to apply it. Be a leader through leadership or through followership, thus creating presence. And so it's that system thinking approach that's going to garner success for you. And I always go back to the term, chance favors the prepared mind. Louis Pasteur. Meaning there is no such thing as luck. It's up to you to make a difference, and whatever it might be, as Rick has mentioned. So work hard, play hard, have fun, and do something you really love to do with passion and desire.
Thank you guys for your attention. Enjoy the rest of the academy, and certainly go out there and have fun. Don't forget to have fun.
That's right. Take care, guys.